welcome back everyone to our November hashtag Hire Me 2022 Employer Panel Series hosted by BCJobs.ca. So my name's Chelsea, as you can see my name there, and I'll be your BC Jobs host for today's panel. For those of you who are new to these panels, every month we have 3 special panelists from various sectors join us for a little Q&A on what's new with their organizations and to talk a bit about the job market and hiring in British Columbia. So we're proud that BC Jobs is Western Canada's biggest online job board, and to stay in the loop about companies that are hiring, you can also check out our Innovators podcast to learn more about what industry leaders are saying about the job market. We actually recently had a speaker from Best Buy on our podcast back in, I think it was September now. So you can check out that episode with Chris. Before we get started today, I just want to encourage our audience to type your questions for the panelists into the chat box at any point. So if you've got a question that comes to mind, pop it in the chat box, because I'll do kind of like first come, first serve when we get to our Q&A period. During our Q&A period, you have the option to raise your hand, not physically, but as an emoji. So you've got a couple options to ask questions today. So if you have a question that comes up, feel free, you can pop it in the chat, and I'll go back through all the messages and I'll go to the first one, and we'll start from there during the Q&A. So I'll cue you in when we get to that part of our event. We will also be offering a job candidate pitch event right after right before we start our audience Q&A. So for this event, 3 candidates will be selected for a 30-second pitch about yourselves. Okay, so you're going to pitch yourselves to the guest speakers, and I'll give you more details about that when we get to that time. But the person with the best pitch will receive a 30-minute resume consultation with BC Jobs. And so when I get to this part of the panel, I'll let you know all over again how to nominate yourself to give a 30-second pitch. Okay, so let's get some introductions going here. I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Adriana Verreet, Recruitment Advisor at Vancouver Coastal Health. Adriana, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, and we'd love to know more about yourself and BCH.
Yeah, so I've been in recruitment. You know, recruitment is always an accident. It's never, someone never wakes up and says they're going to be a recruiter. They just fall into it. And in 2008, I began my journey in recruitment, and I managed Western Canada for TJX Canada for 9 years, then moved to Best Buy Canada. I loved every second of it. And this is why I have a soft spot in my heart. And during the pandemic, I made a decision that I wanted to be in an environment that really provided care to the community. Then I joined Vancouver Coastal Health, and it's been a whirlwind because it's such a complex organization. And when people think about healthcare, they think, you know, they're primary physician, hospital, emergency, and they never think about the engine behind healthcare that is required in order to deliver services. So my focus is working with the non-union side of the business. So I focus on, you know, marketing, the people side, finance, real estate, logistics, anything that you can possibly imagine from the operations and business side of things. Very exciting. I typically hire from business analysts to senior managers. In my portfolio right now on the clinical side are all the nurse practitioners across British Columbia, and on the operation side, real estate, logistics, administration, you name it. So very exciting, and I'm learning a lot, very matrix organization. I'm looking at Claire, she's nodding because I'm imagining the city of Vancouver, very similar, you know, very complex, exciting. I'm learning every day. I know 1% of 100 when it comes to healthcare, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to have you here, Adriana, and thanks for that great introduction for yourself. I forgot to mention, for those of you who are here today, if you need closed captioning, there is an option. I'm on a computer Zoom, like I'm not on the app. So there's like 3 dots on my screen. So if you need closed caption, if you need to see things printed. There's a captions option. You can click on that and it should pop up as a little box, and then you can read what we're all saying if that's helpful. So
Kelsey, can I just say one more thing?
Oh,
And
sure, absolutely.
This is an opportunity to network, right? With
Yes.
job seekers. So I would strongly encourage everyone, if possible, to turn on their videos so we can network and engage that way. You know, just looking at a name makes it difficult to even put two and two together. Just my
Oh, absolutely. Yes. If you're able to, please feel free to pop on your video. It's always nice to see a face, and we appreciate that. So thank you so much, and thank you, Adriana. I'll hand over the virtual mic to Allan. Allan, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Ndungu, a corporate recruiter at Best Buy Canada. Allan, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to know more about yourself and what Best Buy is up to for the rest of this year.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for the intro. My last name is pronounced Ndungu. It's a little hard because the N and the D are usually not put in the same, like following each other.
I was going to ask you before we started today, and it completely went out of my mind. So apologies.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. I take all pronunciations of it because it's such a unique name. So I'm happy to hear it. It's okay. I have been with Best Buy for around a year. Like Adriana said, being a recruiter kind of just falls in your lap, and you kind of just keep going with it because it's such a fast paced, a lot of learning, and it just goes so quick. My own journey started in around 5 years ago. Before Best Buy, I was primarily working solely in the tech space, and working with tech agencies. So mainly working with BCH, City of Vancouver, different large organizations to fill their tech contracting roles. And then when the opportunity with Best Buy came up in June last year, I took it on. Maybe I was replacing Adriana, but I came on because I was more interested. I wanted to be on the more corporate side of things. Mm-hmm. And right now with Best Buy, I am the one that looks after the marketplace and e-com portfolio, as well as the center of excellence portfolio. But with that, there's a mix of roles that I work on. So I work on, at the moment, I'm working on front and back end developers, seller success managers, which are like account managers essentially, mm-hmm. As well as data analysts, data science, that whole world. So those are primarily the portfolios that I look after on a more general scale. And our team basically works for most of the tech side of the business at Best Buy. The rest of the team, aside from marketplace and e-com, which is being given the big push, which I can give you more context as well when I'm answering the questions that I have. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing. Sounds like your role keeps you very busy.
Yeah. It's very interesting though. It's very interesting. Yeah. Very different to agencies, but very interesting, and a lot of learning too.
Fantastic. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Claire. Claire, I should have double checked your pronunciation for your last name as well. Van Ooijen. Hopefully I got that okay.
Totally fair. It's a Dutch last name. It's hard to pronounce even for Dutch people. So it's Claire Van Ooijen in Dutch.
Van Ooijen, okay.
Van Ooijen, same as Allan. I take any pronunciation of that. So yeah, I would definitely, first of all, thank you for having us here today. It's great to be part of this. Definitely echoing what Allan and Adriana said before, definitely fell into recruitment. It was not my education at all. I moved here in 2015 from the Netherlands. I originally went to law school, did my master's. We moved here, and I met someone who worked at a recruitment agency, and it just seemed so interesting. And here we are 7 years later, and I'm still doing recruitment. So I started working with agencies, mainly in the tech space as well, engineering as well, just working with larger companies, filling specific roles and finding talent for their companies. And then in 2018, the opportunity opened up at the City of Vancouver, and I was just really interested in helping the organization grow, just working on their long-term goals and trying to help the different parts of our organization find people. Like at the City of Vancouver, we have the park board, engineering, our planning department, real estate and facilities. There's so many different parts of the organization. So I'm still learning every week. I guess, yeah, I'm just really excited to be here today. Happy to answer any questions that the candidates here have, and really just hoping to be a resource for any job seekers. You know, I'm really curious to know, what are you running into? Are there any specifics where we can help you out with? That's really the goal today. So yeah, if you're able to turn on your camera, it's absolutely a networking opportunity. So it's really nice to see some faces and have some feedback. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thanks for the great introduction, Claire. And that's huge, a switch going from law to recruitment. So sounds like you're loving it, though.
We all fall into it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for those great introductions. And, now that we know our panelists a little bit better, I've got some of my own questions to start us off with before we move over to our pitch event and audience Q&A. So these next questions are geared towards, what's new at your companies for the last leg of 2022, but also I've also thrown in a couple questions under the theme of future of work. So I'll start off again with Adriana. Vancouver Coastal Health has over 8,000 employees, according to LinkedIn. How has the past 2 years?
7,000 employees.
What? Oh, wow.
Yep.
Need to update LinkedIn.
27,000 employees. So
27,000.
Yeah,
wow.
9,800. I would say over 12,000 are clinical, and the remaining are non-clinical. So, you have from housekeeping all the way to executives.
I didn't realize it was so big. So how has the past 2 years in a global pandemic affected the way Vancouver Coastal Health operates or innovates? Sorry.
Well, are you talking from the business side or you're talking from the employee side?
Could be both.
Yeah, I think Vancouver Coastal Health identified that there's many other ways of working. It's a very traditional place in the way of thinking, in the way of doing business. So a lot of creativity and innovation had to be put in to be able to continue delivering services, because in the end, our clients are our patients, right? So, how can we best support our patients? So we're going through a massive system implementation called Cerner to automate the communication between the physicians instead of manual, paper. So the people and culture, which is the former HR, we're always trying to find best ways to, support our clients. It's a very big organization, so it's a city on its own. So you keep people engaged, and you have the union side of the house, and then you have the non-union side of the house. So there is a separation in the way we do the work, but it's very exciting. I'm learning a lot. And everything we do is funded by the ministry. So as soon as, like last year, the mandate was to hire 180 psychiatrists. So, due to the mental health that unfolded as a result of COVID. So it's all about the strategy. So we run with programs, if you will. Very exciting. I'm saying all of that on the clinical side. So people here are saying, okay, why am I here? Right. So you got to remember, behind the scenes, you have the administrative team, you have the marketing team, you have the coordinator, you have the data analyst, you have the finance team. There's a lot that needs to happen in order to deliver the care. So
it's like you have the neck and the body, and then there's the face. You guys prop up, the system.
So it's like, exactly. I hope I answered your question.
No, perfect. That was great. My next question is for Allan here. As many people know, Best Buy Canada is one of Canada's biggest retailers with over 10,000 employees from coast to coast. And I learned that from the podcast I did earlier this fall or end of summer with Chris. So what's Best Buy's approach to the future of work within a giant retail and tech space?
So I know, especially since I joined, there was a big shift from the way things were working before. Because, for example, right now, when it comes to hiring, specifically, we have more of a market-based approach. Because, of course, as we know, before the pandemic, it was such a different time, and things were moving at such a different pace with candidates versus companies. Whereas when everything kind of changed, we've changed our ideas and the way we look at hiring and recruiting to having a more market-based approach and listening to what candidates want and trying to be out here, for example, and at events like these to really hear what people want and what kind of roles that they're looking for. So that's one of the ways that I know we're kind of forward thinking, and the different teams have a multi-year strategy when it comes to these types of things. Another thing is that we now have a remote first approach. I know before I joined, the culture at Best Buy was very much on site, and that was the culture. Everybody would go to the office, and that was just the way things were. But after the pandemic, everything is now remote. So I think the company kind of switched that to now keeping everybody remote. Even those of us who are here in Vancouver, we got a new office space in West 6, which is in Olympic Village. It's a smaller space, and everybody's remote permanently, even post the pandemic. So that's another way we're kind of tackling the future of work, because I guess companies generally across the board have seen we can be productive, especially in the different teams, while working from home. And then also we have a career framework system at Best Buy where we also want to foster internal talent. So when we're looking at people to kind of come onto the teams, we don't want the expectation to be that you're going to be in that one job forever. We want to foster the environment where, hey, if you can join as a recruiter, but if you want to kind of grow into a different department, maybe it's marketing, there is the possibility of doing that. So we are also forming programs where we can look internally for different talent as well as externally as well, just to be able to utilize everybody's different skill sets as well. So yeah, that's how we're tackling the future.
Exciting. Do you work remotely yourself, or do you go into your new office space on West 6 in Vancouver?
Yeah, I work remotely myself. We do have a hotel desk system where you can book in a desk and go in. And we do have we have every quarter, we have the whole HR team, for example, to go and meet and mingle and hang out for the day. So we do have those initiatives in place. But yeah, when you get used to working from home, it gets pretty nice, I must say. Especially when it gets colder and it's raining outside, right? So
yeah, no, so I looked outside today and I was like, I'm not going outside.
I love it too. I work remote too. I wouldn't go back.
Yeah, it's
I work remote as well.
Yeah, but it is nice to go back because it is a really nice environment to be in. It's a really nice new shiny office. So, and it's accessible because it's close to downtown. So, which is where I live. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and it's between the two SkyTrains, so easy to get to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So my next question is for Claire. So the city of Vancouver provides services for over 500,000 residents. I think we have more than 500,000 residents. So is Vancouver expected to grow rapidly in the next 10 to 20 years? Is there a projection on this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's definitely expected to grow rapidly. I have to be honest, I don't have specific numbers around that just because we don't know yet. We can only just see like how the city has grown like over the past 10, 20 years and try and anticipate and just make sure that we can provide service. Like, as you said, we provide services for anyone who lives in the city of Vancouver. So really just trying to anticipate on what is going to happen and make sure we have those services in place, make sure the infrastructure is up to date and that we can basically keep up with growth. So I'm at City Hall right now. We work from home quite a bit, but I'm in the office today at City Hall, and I was just outside and Broadway City Hall, like the crossing here, like the SkyTrain, Broadway here, it's one big construction site. Some of the bridges are under construction. I feel like everywhere I go, it's under construction. So yeah, I think that's really just a sign of like, there's so much work being put in place right now to make sure that we can keep up with that growth. Nobody really knows how much is going to grow exactly, but I think being a newcomer to Canada and to Vancouver, it's definitely an attractive city to be. I haven't been like all the way on the East Coast, but I was in Montreal recently. It's very cold. I hear of a lot of people that come here for their studies and like stay because it's just an attractive climate to be in. There's lots of job opportunities. So yeah, I think it's definitely safe to say it's going to grow. And it's really for the city of Vancouver, just about finding ways how we can do that in a sustainable way, how we can do that while we keep reconciliation with the First Nations in the back of our minds and incorporate that in our programs as well. There are so many things that come into play. So there's a lot of work to be done. We just had our elections, obviously. So direction is going to come from City Council. So things might change slightly over the next couple months. Like we have our staff working closely with them, just working on increasing housing, making sure the programs are in place to deal with new immigrants. So many things to work on. There's so much work to be done. And I think we're all expecting Vancouver to grow quite a bit, and just making sure that we can do that in a way where it's still like a pleasant place to live. That's really what we're working hard on. Yeah,
you've got a lot on your plate. I mean, it's a
not
big
just
city
me.
to run.
It's definitely not me. And as recruitment, we're really just making sure that the teams that do all the work have the people to be able to deliver on those programs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So thank you for answering my very broad question there. That wasn't a trick question, I swear.
Seems like it.
My next question is for Adriana. How does the healthcare industry see the future of work, in your opinion?
Well, the clinical side requires, a nurse needs to be on site.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the emergency doctor needs to be there. Can you imagine? So there's certain jobs, and because when people think healthcare, all they think again is your doctor in the hospital. But healthcare, you have the whole community side, which we call community health, which is, the home support, the long-term care, anything that is not in the emergency room. And then you have your allied health, which is your physiotherapists and so forth, right? So there's a lot of work that is, because of COVID, it can be done virtually. Counseling sessions and whatnot. But so from the business side of things is very nimble right now. So we're really working to meet the candidates' needs in terms of hybrid work. Like for me, I like fully remote. I joke and I say I don't like people. I don't want to see I love working remote. So that works for my lifestyle. For some people, they needed hybrid. So we're really trying to accommodate, what the person needs, in terms of quality of work and quality of life. So I think that this is the biggest shift for the organization. The delivery of service still remains the same. Claire said something, a big focus has been around truth and reconciliation. And there was a report written called In Plain Sight where, highlighted several calls to action. So Vancouver Coastal Health is really, really focused on actioning all those calls. We have an Indigenous health team. We have our vice president and the directors. We received funding to really augment that area, to put a lot of emphasis on Indigenous health and protect the culture and the way of life. We just hired an Indigenous recruitment advisor. We brought her from Alberta, lived experience. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do to, I guess, meet the needs of, the BC population. I think this is, and I hope I answered your question.
No, that's perfect. Yes, I mean, we have such a diverse population and a lot of different needs for a lot of different people. It's not an easy job, and yeah. So my next question here is for Allan. So Allan, looking towards 2023, what is Best Buy Canada most excited about?
I think some of the things that we're most excited about looking into 2023 is fostering new talent. I know that so many of the different teams have initiatives in place, as well as the talent acquisition team, to the strategies that we're trying to put in place when it comes to recruiting for new employees, and whether it's in tech or just the different spaces in general. One of them, of course, is that diversity and inclusion is prioritizing that as well. When we're looking at job events, I recently did a similar event for that was based around immigrants that were moving to Canada and freshly had just come to Canada, and we're looking for how we can fit them into the different roles that we have on the go at the moment. We also opened our first teen tech center in BCG in Delta, where youth can go and access cutting edge technology. So whether that's 3D printers, recording audio equipment, that kind of thing, to really just foster the new skills for their future careers. Another thing that we're excited about, I'd mentioned we have our new office, so we're hoping to be able to host events there as well, because it really is designed for intentional in-person events and connections. So events like this, hopefully we can have them in person and in the office. And in our stores generally as well, we've recently opened back up the social and team events as well. So which they're really engaging and inspiring to be working in the stores as well. So they also tend to merge those team events with giving back to the local community. So that's also pretty exciting. So yeah, those are some of the main things that I know we're super excited about at Best Buy.
So interesting. So this initiative that you just mentioned, that's in Delta, is that right? Can you tell us a bit more about this one? BCG?
Yeah, it's basically a space where people can go in and ask questions to the Geek Squad that are on site. Ask questions about different tech, new cutting edge tech, the new things that are. It kind of gives people an insight, a glimpse into what's coming up, kind of thing. Especially because it's based around teens and people that are just leaving school. So you can kind of go in and get a glimpse into what you would be interested within tech, what you'd be interested in within tech, and what career you'd want to pursue within tech. So yeah, that's a little bit about what's
really
going on there. It's pretty new. Yeah,
it's so
cool.
they're like little workshops for you.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess people here could find more information on the Best Buy website about this initiative.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. Excellent. Great to know. Well, thanks for sharing. My next question is for Claire. No trick questions, I promise. What are some of the city's visions for our growing workforce?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess this is one of the bigger questions. Like we have quite a large recruitment team. We have, I guess there's no one cookie cutter answer, I would say, just because we have so many different departments with very different needs. Like, for example, we have our park board recruitment where we do tons of seasonal hiring. Like the lifeguards you see on the beaches, like anyone who works like in parks operations, like making sure the parks look beautiful, everything is safe. We have that, and we have our senior planners that are trying to map out like what the city might look like in a few years. So I guess our visions really depend on the specific departments, and really what we're trying to do is partner with like the managers, the directors there, and see what their vision is for their department and try and support their needs in that way. So like as usual, like every spring we have a huge hiring boost, I would say, like lots of seasonal staff for the community centers, the parks, like everything like that. That's every spring. And we're just trying to anticipate on that. Like how many people did we need last year? Was it enough? How many people will we likely need next year? Where do we find these people? Like, can we go directly to the programs at BCIT or wherever they're graduating? We're trying to really go to like the source and really just try and convince people to work for the city of Vancouver before they work for other organizations. So yeah, we're just trying, it really differs per department, but we're just trying to partner with management there and be strategic about how we're going to be able to meet their needs for their departments. And with that, to echo Allan as well, like we do have like programs in place to make sure we have diverse hires. Like we want to make sure that our workforce really represents the people that live in the city of Vancouver, and just making sure that our hiring processes are as low barrier as possible, just to make sure that people will actually apply to our jobs. Yeah, I hope it's a high level answer, but it's a big question. I hope this answers your question.
No, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much, all three of you, for answering all of my curious questions. I've learned a lot more about your organizations and the things going on for the last leg of this year and for 2023. So I appreciate that. The next part of this event is very short. It's our candidate pitch event. So I'm just going to pop some instructions here in the chat for everybody. But if you want to, be brave and do a little public speaking today, you have the opportunity to pitch yourself in 30 seconds to Allan, Adriana, and Claire. So if you want to brush up on those rusty public speaking skills, you can nominate yourself in the chat. You can let us know your name, location, and industry. And then the first three people who nominate themselves, I will pick from the top, and you'll be invited on screen to pitch yourself to our panelists. All right. Oh, wow. We've got, okay, Manan, our first brave soul. All right. So Manan, if you are here, you can feel free to pop your video on and unmute your mic.
Yeah, my video is on.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks everyone for giving me this opportunity. And I've done. I'm in Burnaby, Vancouver, and I've done my bachelor's in business administration and postgraduate diploma in business project management. I'm currently working with a cybersecurity IT company as a project coordinator, and I'm looking forward to change from IT industry to healthcare domain, and that's the reason why I have joined this event today. And I would like to know more about like a project coordinator position with healthcare industry, and how should I make it up to it?
Okay, so I guess your pitch is geared more towards Adriana if you're looking to get into the health sector. So maybe Adriana, you might have a follow-up question for Manan today.
Yeah, again, Manan, we have 27,000 employees and we have many projects ongoing. So what I was trying to recommend is that you go to our career site and look at the areas of interest, such as real estate or finance, and based on that area, look at the opportunities available and search for any project coordinators. But my caveat here, make sure when you're reading the qualifications that you have what they're asking in terms of education and experience. I see a lot of candidates just shooting their applications all over the place, completely unrelated to what the qualifications for the position are asking. And they just become one of those that, oh, here it comes again. And it will lose strength and momentum, and your resume will be ignored eventually. So if you don't have the qualifications, don't apply. If you have some of the qualifications, take a risk. That's the only.
Great pitch, Manan, and I hope Adriana shed some light on applying for Vancouver Coastal Health. Thank you so much. All right, our next pitch candidate is, I'm just going back up the list here. Oh, wow, we've got a lot of people wanting to speak today. I'm sorry I can't pick everybody, but I'm just going to go with the top three. Sania, and I hope I've pronounced your name right. Feel free to pop on your camera if your camera's not already on. I can't see everybody on my screen yet. Okay, and feel free to unmute yourself and give us your pitch.
Hello, everyone. My name is Saida Sania. I am from Surrey, and I'm new to Canada. I've worked as a quality assurance analyst in my country, Pakistan, and I just want to apply for a job in information technology as a QA tester. And yeah, so I'm basically a software engineer. I have a bachelor's degree. So yeah, I am new here and want to gain information about the workforce here and the IT sector. So yeah.
I guess my follow-up question for you, is it Saida or Sania?
It's Saida, and my middle name is Sania. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so it's Saida. What would your dream job be?
It's because I'm new here, so I would like to start with a junior QA analyst. So that's my dream job is for now.
That's your dream. Okay, and then to work your way up.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And maybe one of our panelists, maybe Claire or Allan, has a follow-up question for you as well.
Okay, sure. And I'm right now working with ISS of BC because they are giving kind of mentoring, and my employer strategist is also here. She is her name is Liz Vermont, and they're kind of very supportive. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. I've heard great things about this organization.
Thank you.
Maybe Claire has a follow-up question.
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Go ahead.
I'll actually bounce this one to Allan because I think Best Buy probably hires more QA analysts than we do at the City of Vancouver.
Oh.
Yeah, actually, and she actually just answered the question that I had as to what she was currently doing. But yeah, I definitely want to connect with you and ask for your resume, because we do have a lot of QAs that are getting hired at Best Buy. It's always a revolving door, like they always want more. So yeah, let's definitely connect, and I'll ask for your resume as well. I'll just send it to you via chat, and you can just email it to me, and we can connect.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you so much for pitching yourself. I'm just going to choose one more person, only because Adriana is here for about 15 more minutes and she's got to leave early today. So I want to also get to some questions with Adriana after our last pitch candidate. So Shiva, feel free to pop on your camera. It's not already on, and we'd love to hear your pitch.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Shiva. My voice is audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sure. I completed my bachelor's degree back in India and worked for Amazon for 2 years as a transaction risk investigator. Currently, I'm doing my MBA in International Business from Trinity Western University. In part-time, I'm currently working in a company, in a real estate company called Remax, as an assistant to the managing broker. And I'm looking for opportunities here. I can work 40 hours now. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you for pitching yourself. Maybe, Allan or Claire, because it sounds like your role is a little more corporate. Maybe Allan, Claire, or Adriana.
I guess I'm curious to know what kind of position, like you mentioned, you're working for Remax right now, like what kind of positions, like what exactly are you doing right now, and what kind of positions are you looking to get into? It's like you definitely don't have to be in the same position. It's really just about finding those transferable skills. So I'm really just curious to know, like, what is your dream job? Like, what are you really picturing yourself doing?
I'm quite interested in marketing and PR roles. I find myself I find myself over there. So looking into that, into that segment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you're applying to any marketing type positions, it's really just looking at your current position and seeing like what are you currently doing that relates to marketing, like finding those skills that you're doing already and how they would apply in a marketing type role. So it's hard to give a specific example just because depending on the role you would apply to. I would really echo as well what Adriana was saying, like make sure that you focus your resume, like look at the positions that you're applying to and really make sure that you highlight the skills that you have and make sure that it's clear for recruiters or hiring managers to see how those skills are relevant for the position that you're applying to. So a little bit of tailoring goes a long way. Yeah, absolutely. But you'll likely have many of the skills in your current position that will be needed in a marketing advisor position. Yeah, so really just there's always like a list in any job posting. There's always a list of position requirements, minimum requirements, education requirements, and you definitely don't have to meet every single one of them. The ideal candidate would, but the reality is nobody has every single skill. So really just see like what are the main skills and see how you have them in your current position and how it's relevant to the position you're applying for. And that should hopefully really help you. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
All right, great pitch, Shiva. And thank you so much, Manan and Said and Shiva, for pitching yourselves today. Keep an eye on your email inbox for an invitation from BC Jobs to a resume consultation. So thank you so much for being 3 brave souls to speak up today. All right, that brings us to our audience Q&A time. As I mentioned, Adriana's got to run in about 10 minutes, so I'll direct healthcare questions over to her. I'm just going back through the chat, but if anyone has like a health industry specific question, feel free, you can raise your hand. That might be easier to see people at the moment. So if you want to raise your hand, you're going to see at the bottom of your screen a smiley face that says reaction. If you click on that, there's a raise hand option. So if you have a question for Adriana about Vancouver coastal health, feel free to raise your hand. That way we'll get to questions much quicker for her. And I'm just going up through the chat here, looking at other questions that are coming in. Let me see here. All right. Okay, we've got one question from Sandy. Hello, Sandy. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi there. My name is Sandy McLeod, and I'm actually with the Opportunities Fund. So I work with people who have disabilities and help them find employment. So my question is, for many of the non-medical ones at Vancouver Coastal, what is the inclusion sort of, I want to say, value or approach to hiring?
I'm sorry, can you clarify your question for me?
So if I have a client, for example, where the typing speed says 50 words per minute or keystrokes. However, this person has a disability and may use software like voice recognition software and may still be able to do the job, but doesn't meet that typing speed that's in the job posting. So inclusionary practices would evaluate that person's skills and abilities over that one requirement for typing speed. And I'm just trying to get an understanding about the approach around inclusionary hiring with Vancouver Coastal.
I think this is why we have the interviews as well, right? Sometimes multiple interviews, because recruitment should be a very holistic process, right? It's not like a 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, go those days where there were thousands and thousands of people applying. I think Claire and Allan would agree with me. And so, you know, and a lot of these requirements were implemented way back in the day. And so we are trying to the best of our abilities to have a very inclusive, you know, recruitment process. And the ideal candidate is the one that will be selected. So if your candidate has everything that is required along with someone else, the department will hire the person that, you know, check all of the boxes, not because of their ability or inability to do something, if it makes sense.
I hope that answers your question, Sandy.
I think Megan had her hand up.
Yes, Megan, did you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sandy, thank you for your question. It was very much in line with my question as well. I am with WCG, involved in the PCVRS contract, working with veterans, and I'm a job developer. So my question was kind of in line, you know, just kind of looking for some of the panel's thoughts on an openness in hiring someone who might come from a very different background, you know, provided that they can describe what their transferable skills from the military might be, and also knowing that this population of job seekers is maybe more likely to come along with physical disabilities, mental health issues like PTSD, etc.
Well, Megan, it boils down to the skills, knowledge, and ability, right? So let's put aside, you know, the traumas or the disabilities that the individuals have, if they have the skills, if they have the knowledge and the abilities, they might be selected for the role. So we don't look at anything else other than those things. And I know every organization says the same thing. I understand that. It's one of those white elephants in the room. We all know that. But that's the truth. So I'm going to speak about an administrative assistant position is one of our entry-level positions. You know, they must meet some of the requirements. It's high stress, right?
Mhm.
This is healthcare. It's not an office. This is healthcare. It operates at a very different speed than a lot of organizations do. So if the person doesn't have capacity to handle that, it's not fair to them as well. So all of this is looked into it. So I hope Claire, please, Allan, chime in if you guys want to. But
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
at the end of the day, like for us, like a lot of our administrative positions are unionized, so we have very strict minimum requirements for the positions, I would say. But as soon as somebody meets the minimum requirements, there would be absolutely no reason why they wouldn't be considered if they have any disabilities. Oftentimes, we don't know that people have disabilities until we come to interview. So we're trying to be very conscious about, you know, when we're inviting people for an initial phone screen or inviting people for an in-person interview or a virtual interview, we're trying to ask, like, if you need any accommodations, whatever that might be, please let us know, because we never know if people have are visually impaired. Like, it could be anything, or it could be invisible disabilities as well. So what we're trying to do is like try to be very mindful about it. But looking at the resumes, we don't know that like if people don't self-disclose they might have any disabilities, we won't know. And we definitely will not discount someone because they have a disability. If anything, we want to try and make that accommodation to make sure that they can do the job. The only thing we can't be flexible on is if they don't meet all minimum requirements. Like if they don't meet the education requirements, there's not much we can do. Just again, because it's a unionized position, and we it's like we have a collective agreement with the unions. It's negotiated between the unions and the city of Vancouver. I'm not involved in that myself. That's the only piece that we can't be flexible on. But in any other situation, if there is any disabilities and we can make that accommodation for it, absolutely. Yeah, we will do anything we can to do that.
It's a very helpful note for me to add to kind of our list of employers that you are a union environment as well. So that's really helpful. Thank you for that.
Most of our entry-level positions, I will say, are unionized. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the Vancouver Coastal Health, we have, of course, the heavy load is with the union side of things, you know, like porter, housekeeping, whatever. And a very small fraction is the non-union, which I'm representing today. The business side. But yes, like Claire said, for the union side of things, they must meet the minimum requirements. For the non-union positions, it's always very gray, but again, they must meet. If you have 10 applications and 8 meet all the requirements, and this one that you're referring to doesn't, the chances are they're probably not going to be selected.
I mean, and to speak for us as well in the more private sector, because of course, City of Vancouver and Coastal Health are more public sector. It's I do echo the sentiment where we don't look at resumes or candidates and say, oh no, we won't hire you because of X, especially being fully remote. We just look at the resume and see if you're qualified for the role, and if you are, that's totally fine. And actually, with the advice that Claire and Adriana were giving before, it's true it rings true for everybody. Where if you're looking at a role that you want to apply for, I think it's important, if you know that you don't have necessarily all the skills in the job description, it's important to outline and leverage the skills that you do have and present them in a way that is relevant to what the role that you want to go for. So it's kind of giving it a vision of saying, okay, no, I don't have this, but I can do this because I have worked in this realm kind of thing. So I definitely do. I echo the sentiments generally, where we don't discriminate based on anything based on the resume. If anything, we work with the candidates to make sure that everything's working for them, kind of thing. So yeah.
I would echo that. And again, like a lot of times we don't even know unless candidates tell us, which often only comes like after they've been contacted for a phone screen or for an interview. So yeah, I really hope people are not discouraged to apply. I really would encourage anyone to apply. If you have the qualifications, please do. If we can make any accommodations to make sure you are able to participate in the interview process, absolutely. That's why we're here as a recruitment team.
Megan, I hope that answers your question. I just want to jump in because I know, Adriana, you've got to run to your next meeting at 4 p.m. So thank you so much for joining us, Adriana, and answering all these questions. I hope you're not late for your next meeting, and you're welcome to join us anytime in 2023 back on the panel with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for everyone for attending. Nice meeting all of you. Nice meeting you, Allan, Claire, and have a great afternoon.
Take care, Adriana.
Bye.
Okay. So yeah, Megan, I hope that answers your question. That was a really good question that you asked, and we do appreciate that. I've noticed that there's no other questions unless I've accidentally skipped over in the chat. So if you have a question for Claire or for Allan, feel free to raise your hand. So again, the raise hand function is at the bottom in reaction. So you see the smiley face. And when you click on that, you can click on the raise hand function. Or
I think Liz's hand is open.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you. No, it's great. It's great to be here. And I had a good chuckle with all of you talking about falling into recruitment because the same thing happened to me. And it's led me to my position. I work with ISS at BC as an employer relations specialist. One barrier we find with our clients, of course, is that they don't have Canadian experience on their resumes. Could either of you speak to, either the city of Vancouver or Best Buy's feelings on the need for Canadian experience, or are you willing to look at what they have from the countries that they've come from and consider that acceptable for the roles they're applying to?
Great question, Liz.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to take it
first.
Yeah,
okay,
I'll go first.
I can answer after
Thanks,
you.
Claire.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I think in general, like it goes back to the same thing. We don't really look at where people are from, what language is their mother tongue. Honestly, it doesn't really matter if they meet the requirements for the role. They're good to go. We get actually a lot of applicants that are recent graduates from any of the universities or BCIT, anything like that don't have any Canadian work experience. And we've hired actually many of those applicants. So I think really it doesn't really matter where they have worked. What really matters is that we can see what they did in their previous role. I think if people are able to describe the company, what is the company like? We like if somebody tells us well, I worked at Best Buy, we immediately have a picture oh, this is what the company looks like. This is what they likely did. If it's somewhere else, we might not know that company, so we might not necessarily know what their experience is like. So really just trying to describe the company, how big it is, how big your team was, the specific roles that you had on your team. And again, try and relate those the experience from those positions to the position that you're applying to. And that way we can really see okay, well, you've done a similar role at another company in a different country. The title of the position might be different, but what it comes down to is fairly similar to what we're hiring for. That's really the things that we're looking for. For me, if I'm going through resumes, and it's probably similar for you, Allan, at Best Buy, we get tons of resumes. I try to I look at position titles, of course, but I also try to take them with a grain of salt, because what's called a software developer in one company is called something entirely different in another company, but they're doing the same job. So I really try and look at the specifics of the specific skills that they have and the specific duties that they do while they're on the job. So to answer your question, it does not matter if you don't have Canadian experience. I didn't have Canadian experience when I came to Vancouver in 2015. and I'm working for the city of Vancouver now. So I think what's important is that you're able to really just explain your skills and explain what you did and see how it relates to the position that you're applying to. So yeah, anyone who's new to Canada, there is tons of opportunities. So absolutely, it sometimes takes a little while before you find the role that you really want. But same goes for people that grew up in Canada or in Vancouver. Like it sometimes takes a little while before you find a job that you really love. And I always say, like, nobody finds their dream job at 18. Nobody does. We all want to, but nobody does. So please don't be discouraged. If you start your first job and you don't love it, happens to all of us.
It's so true. So true, Claire.
Could be 45.
Could be 45. That's right. Or you can have several dream jobs throughout your life. Sorry, Allan. I'll let you tell us a bit about Best Buy.
I was just going to echo the same sentiments as Claire. Actually, if anything, that's something that for me, my own journey within recruitment as well. When I joined corporate and came to Best Buy, that was one thing that was top of mind for me. Where I was like, I don't want to bat an eye if somebody doesn't have Canadian experience, because working in agency, there were those organizations that were like, they need 6 months or whatever it is. So that's one of the things that I had mentioned when I said we're excited for 2023 is diversity and inclusion is a really big initiative for Best Buy Canada. And that being said, the door is open for everybody. I've been a part of the hiring process for so many people that have just got to Canada or just finished their masters, and if you're qualified for the job, that's all that matters. So we consciously make an effort as the talent acquisition team to not bat an eye or not have any sort of bias to any candidates that are applying to Best Buy Canada. So that's definitely something that's top of mind for us for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that answers your question there, Liz.
Thank you, both of you.
Awesome. I see we've got a question from Tano. Feel free to, and I hope I said your name correctly, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Is your question directed to Allan or Claire or both?
It's directed to everyone, I think. So,
okay, perfect.
Hi, I'm Tano. First of all, thanks so much, Chelsea, for organizing this event. My question is for all of you and related to applications or how to apply. I find it's such a standard question, I feel like, because I've Googled it myself so many times, but I still wanted to hear firsthand from you too. Do you have any suggestions or tips on how to improve my application, my application or my applicant skills on how to reach actual recruiters? So I bet you guys have a ton of applications. Sometimes when I look at LinkedIn, I see that some of the job ads have like 100, sometimes 500 applicants at the time. So how can I stand out from that crowd? Should I contact a recruiter directly through LinkedIn? Should I send an email? What to do?
Really great question. How to stand out best to City of Vancouver. Claire.
Yeah, for sure. So I think like you're right, like sometimes I see it too, like on LinkedIn there's tons of applicants. You can even see where you rank in the applicants. I think the thing to keep in mind there, it's LinkedIn giving you those stats. I'm not sure how accurate it is. Often it's not, and it really depends on what people have on, like what people have listed on their LinkedIn. So could be accurate, might not be. Don't be discouraged. I think for yourself, like it's a lot of work to apply for jobs. So really think for yourself, like, what are my skills? What is my education? And what do I want to do? Do I have those skills to do that job? And really try and find those jobs and apply to those positions. I think what Adriana was mentioning, like we've all mentioned it at this point, like sometimes it's hard to find a job and it's hard to get started somewhere. So it's what happens a lot of times is where people send their resume everywhere in the hope to find something back. But you can definitely do that. The risk with that is that you're never going to be targeting your resume towards a specific position. And it's a lot of work to keep up with all the applications. It's a lot of work to try and follow up. Like it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to be very stressful for yourself as well. So I would really just try and narrow down the positions that you're applying to. Like really just take a critical look at like your skills and what you really want to do. find those jobs and apply to those positions. That way you'll be able to like tailor your resume really to the organization and the skills, and just keep a list of your applications. Try and save the job posting as well, so that if you're called for an interview, you remember what job it was. You can quickly go over the requirements and you're able to just have a productive conversation at that point. But yeah, trying to narrow down the positions that, like, we're not all qualified for every position out there. That's the reality. So yeah, narrow it down, apply only to those positions where you have at least 50 to 70% of the skills, but really the core skills. Apply to those positions, and there's really not much you can do other than waiting to hear back. But as long as your offer letter is clear, your resume is clear, and it's easy for us to see, like, okay, this is Tano, this is his skills. Yes, he could be a potential fit. We might reach out to you. It really depends on other applicants, of course. As you said, like sometimes there's 500 applicants, and we wish that we could get back to every single applicant. Unfortunately, we can't always. I wouldn't really recommend emailing recruiters, because we again, like, we don't have capacity to email every single person back. I would recommend to wait until you hear back from the company. If you've already met with a recruiter at a company before, and you have their contact information, for sure, you can send a quick note saying, hey, I applied to this position, would love to hear back from you. Again, it's really different. It's hard to give a blanket answer because different companies will have different policies. But I know for us at City of Vancouver, we have a very high volume of applicants, which is really great. We do try to go through every single resume in person, which is why sometimes it takes a little bit longer than a week to get back to candidates. We want to make sure that we don't just discard resumes just because our system filtered it out. We really want to make sure that we look at it and look at the skills. If you have the right skills, if you have the right experience, the chances are you might be reached out to if you're shortlisted for an interview or a conversation. But like, the best way to make it easier on yourself is just narrow down the amount of positions you're applying to and the type of positions you're applying to.
Great tips, Claire. And maybe over to Allan, what makes a job candidate stand out to you? Is it a great cover letter? Is it a DM on your LinkedIn? How can a job candidate best stand out to you?
I think I'm gonna echo a little bit of what Claire said and differ a little bit as well. So Claire's definitely right when she's saying that tailor your resume to and apply to roles that are the most relevant. Because if you send your application, of course, to 20 places and then they're all not, you're just kind of just hoping one will stick, that makes it harder. You're making it harder on yourself. So with that in mind, of looking at a role and saying, I have this skill set, for us, I would actually recommend DMing the recruiter or the person that's involved, or the person that has their name on that job, because this is where networking is super important. Because even if you send me a DM and I get it, and of course this is it depends on the recruiter. Some recruiters might be getting a million messages, so don't always expect a response back. But I don't think it hurts to send that message just so you can introduce yourself, because even if you connect but not specifically for that role, maybe you can have a conversation, and later on down the line, that person will remember you and your resume and say, oh wait, actually I need to talk to Tano because I think they could be interested in this role. I relate that also to my own experience in Vancouver as well, is doing the networking piece of really meeting people and just getting them to see your face and have a conversation with them. That's how I got my first job in Vancouver. It took 3 months, but after the 3 months, the person that I introduced myself to called me and was like, oh, actually, this role is available. Would you be interested? So definitely say it doesn't hurt to send out that message to introduce yourself and say, hey, I've applied to this role. But with doing that, don't send a message just to like everybody. Send it if you're very confident in the skill set that is shown on the job description. And if you have it, then definitely send that message with that confidence, so that if I pick up the phone and we actually have a conversation, it's not like this isn't related to anything that you want, right? So it's I think that that catering to the role on your resume is important. But yeah, I would say it doesn't hurt to send that message out if it's super relevant to what you want to do, for sure. But it's dependent on the different organizations, of course, and the load of applicants and the roles and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Absolutely. I hope that answers your question, Paolo.
Yeah, it does. I actually have a follow-up, just a quick follow-up question about LinkedIn applications on LinkedIn. So I'm sure you're familiar with the LinkedIn Easy Apply button. So it's ridiculously easy. It's like only my resume and my address, basically. So would you say it's even I shouldn't consider like submitting my application via LinkedIn through Easy Apply?
No, you can definitely do it. I think it's very dependent on the organization. Like, having worked for a few different companies, like in agency, absolutely do that. That's a great way to get in front of a recruiter. Like, it's easy for people to see what your skills are. It's very quick. As Allan was saying, it really depends on the organization. Like, I worked in agency as well. It's very different. It's all based on who you know. It's based on networking. You're talking to like the same people, trying to find like a specific position that fits their skills. For us at City of Vancouver, it's a little bit different. I think for Adriana, probably at Coastal Health as well, just because we're a public organization, like we want to make sure that we have like a standard application process that's a little bit more detailed, just because we want to make sure that every applicant has the same way of applying, so that we just can ensure like a fair and equal like recruitment process, just to encourage like diversity in our hires as well. So for City of Vancouver, I think if you click the Easy Apply, it probably sends you to our website, where you still have to like fill out the website, like the website application, and then it will come in front of the recruiter. So just make sure that if you click Easy Apply, it really goes to the company, or if you still need to take some steps, it might depend on the position and the company you're applying to.
Okay, thanks so much, Claire and Allan.
Thanks for a great question. All right, we've got another hand raised from Ihor. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? And apologies if I've also pronounced your name wrong.
Yeah, you was totally correct. Thank you for having me here. So my question is kind of a follow-up to the previous one. The question is that, as far as I know, it might be a bit difficult to get a management-related job as a first job in Canada. I've noticed it on my own experience. And my question is, what is the best way to proceed here? Is it better to step back to some technical positions and start from that, or continue looking for like a position that you are currently working on or want to get work on?
Really great question. Maybe Allan, I'll pass this question to you. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ihor. That's a really good question. I think it's important to be able to be flexible, because the getting a management job, a lot of teams in different organizations want to know that you can manage a team that's based here. So I think it's when applying for those roles, it's important to outline that you're flexible with getting into a role that might be a little bit more junior, but not necessarily completely junior, of course, because if you have experience from your home country or wherever it is, I think you should want to get something that's within that realm of experience level. But I think it's important to have that open conversation and that open dialogue with the organization that you're talking to, and letting them know that piece of, hey, I'm interested in getting into management. I'm open to taking on something that's different, but that is what I'm working towards. So maybe set that expectation while you're having that conversation. I know, to give a story, there's a role that I was working on for as a senior SEO specialist in management as well. And it was a very similar situation where the director had mentioned, this candidate is great, but we don't know if she'd be able to manage the team at the level that we'd want her to. But she was willing to take on that, to have that conversation, and they brought her on at like the highest level that they could. And they were like, hey, within 6 months to a year, we can work up to that role, just so you can get a feel for the organization and the style of managing, the culture, the professional culture within Best Buy, that kind of thing. And she was able to come on board and be a part of the team, and now she is the manager that she had applied for. So I think it's important to be open to the conversation, not necessarily saying no the minute they say, oh, for whatever reason. If they're open in the conversation with you, I think it's important to be able to have that conversation and see what they can offer you without shortchanging yourself, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. And in terms of the resume, what is your take here? Is it better to prepare the resume for this lower position, or still send the resume for the management position with some caveats?
I mean, I'd say you should still have it be the best possible resume that you'd want it to be, and showcase the skills that you want the management or the recruiter or whoever it is to see. And then you can outline in there and say, oh, I'm open to having a discussion regardless of the outcome. But even then, I feel like as a recruiter, when I'm looking at a resume, if I see that you've been managing different teams, I would still reach out to you. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh no, you don't have Canadian experience, because it goes back to that question, right? So that's a conversation more to have when we're actually talking and having that conversation when I've reached out to you. So I think you should use the same resume that you'd use for any other role. I don't think you need to edit it, because that's, again, don't shortchange yourself. Set yourself up in a way that's like, this is what I want, so this is how I'm going to go about it. So
and my way of thinking is that your resume should be honest, first of all, and show your real experience and your real skills. And thank you for your answer.
Definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
Great and important question. Yeah, maybe Claire has something to add.
No, my first thing that I was going to say is being flexible is key, and that's what Allan mentioned right away as well. I think it's just think for yourself, like you were a manager before, what other things would you be good at? What other things would you like to do? And just kind of work your way up from there. I think a lot of companies promote from within as well. Again, what Allan was saying as well, it's important to know the company culture, like how do things work? What is the dynamic within the team? Like all those things are very important to be a good manager. So it's really less about not being from Vancouver or being from Canada. It's more about being external to that company specifically, most likely. Definitely being flexible is key. And you don't know, like sometimes you take a little sidestep and you might end up being recruitment,
It's all about getting your foot in the door, I think.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. All right. Great question.
Thank you for your answers.
I think we'll take 2 more questions before we start to wrap up today. So if anyone has any burning questions that they want to ask Claire and Allan, now's the time to do it. You can raise your hand, or you can pop your question into the chat. Totally up to you. But I think we've got time for about 2 more questions, and then I'll hand it over to Allan and Claire to give any lasting words of wisdom or advice for everybody seeking work at the moment. Okay. Well, I don't see any hands raised, so maybe we'll start to wrap up this event. So I'll hand it over to Allan. Allan, if you want to share any words of wisdom, some advice for our job candidates here today in this hiring, in this hiring climate, this job market, we'd love to know what your thoughts are.
I think I'd say be yourself, and also keep in mind that in the current climate, and I think what the future kind of looks like, is that it is really a candidate market. So gone are the days where it was people always hounding companies and wanting to work for them. Now it's the candidates that are saying, oh, you know what, if you don't have this, then I'm not willing to work for you. So I think it's important to stay true to who you are, and to keep going for what you want, and never shortchange what you want for the sake of getting a job. I truly believe in keep going, keep finding that thing. Be flexible, of course, but yeah, keep going for it, and just keep in mind that as much as you want that job with that company, they also want you, and they also need you. So it's definitely a two-way street. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice to everybody, is just keep going for it and stay true to who you are and what you want as well. Of course, with the flexibility and being open to have those conversations, but don't change for anything or anybody, and don't shortchange yourself.
I love that, Allan. Thank you so much. All right, Claire, if you have any words of wisdom or last piece of advice you want to share with everybody.
It's hard to top Allan there. I really agree with all of it you said there. There is so many opportunities out there. like it sometimes takes a little while to like find the things that you are interested in, or like the job that's really the right fit for you. How I always view interviews is like, of course, employers are interviewing you to get to know you and your skills, but it's as much an opportunity for you to see like, well, is this a company I want to work at? Like, do they meet my needs? Am I able to work remote? What is my commute looking like? The base salary is great, but what about vacation days? Any flexibility there? You know, I feel like really since the pandemic, work has changed, and it probably will continue to change. Like 5 years ago, nobody would have thought that so many people would work remote. Yet here we are. We're almost all working remote, or at least partially. So it's really just trying to think about the things that make you happy. Like at the end of the day, you want to come home from work and feel good and you feel happy, and you want to go back to work the next day. Work is a part of your life. It's really important to not be fully drained by the weekend, and just, you know, of course, we have to recharge and be ready to go on Monday, but you know, you want to make it, you want to have a job that gives you energy as well. So yeah, to echo what Allan said, make sure that they meet your needs. There are so many great opportunities out there right now. So it might take a little while to find the right one for you, but it will come. Don't lose hope. Don't lose confidence. And really just make sure your LinkedIn is up to date. Your resume is short and sweet. Keep it to 2 pages. Really make sure that your main skills are highlighted. And just really think what makes you happy, what fits your needs, and apply to those positions. And I'm sure something will come.
Wonderful.
Don't get discouraged.
Yes, I know it's easy to feel discouraged, but yeah, keep that hope alive. There's something out there for you. I know it. Thank you so much, Allan and Claire, for your wonderful piece of advice, your thoughtful answers today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you both on the panel, and Adriana too, even though she's gone now. I know everyone's got a super busy schedule, so I appreciate your time today. And if any of our job candidates are looking for work, I would suggest checking out the career pages of Best Buy at Vancouver Coastal Health and the City of Vancouver. Maybe Claire and Allan could pop some links in the chat if they've got the links handy. And also keep your eye out for our next event, which is on December 13th, which is our next hashtag Hire Me 2022 employer panel with Peloton Technologies, BC Public Service, and TD. So you can register for our next event at Eventbrite, or you can go to BCJobs.ca/events and register directly from our page. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email anytime at events@BCJobs.ca. I'm the only one at that email address, even though it's plural, events. So I am the events@BCJobs. So if you have any questions about any upcoming events, or hiring questions, or even resume or LinkedIn questions, feel free to shoot me an email or a message on LinkedIn. And thank you all for joining us today, and good luck. You know, the hunt for work out there. I know it's it's never an easy time looking for work, but it is a candidate's market. As Allan was saying, we have, gosh, I think it's like over 1 million job openings in Canada right now. Like, we have a labor shortage, so there's lots of work out there, lots of employment opportunities, and I believe there's something for everyone out there. So keep looking, keep applying, and you'll find something that you're looking for. All right.
Thank you for having us, Chelsea.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you,
Thanks
Allan.
everybody for attending.
It was a pleasure to meet everybody today, and thank you for those great pitches earlier. So again, keep an eye on your in your email inbox for a message from me. So thank you so much. Have a great week.
Thank you. Nice to meet everyone.
And feel free to connect on LinkedIn too, guys. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn.
Yes,
We're happy to connect.
LinkedIn's a wonderful networking tool. All right.
Bye.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.